let's do the division. We are going to do polynomials, dividing polynomials, section 6.6, page 44. We did somewhat a little bit earlier, okay? And since we talked about divisions, we need to go back to multiplications again because division is the opposite of the multiplication. Okay? So let's look. We had this before. X squared times x cubed is what? How many x's? 5 of them, right? So we multiply one term times one term is still one term, right? So we call this one what? Product property. So we multiply things, simple one with exponents. So we have what? An times an is what? An plus n, right? We have that. We call this product property. Okay? And we do this way, x6 divided by x squared, right? How many terms we have? One term, monomial. It's one of the polynomials, right? Divided by one term, still one term. So it's what? X fourth, right? So we did division already. One term divided by one term is what? An minus n. Then we call this what? Quotient property. Right? So we did a mono to mono, divided one term to one term, and for the division of polynomials already, right? And if we have, we can do this way. If x squared divided by x6, right? We say we subtract the power, that would be 2 minus 6. That would be what? X fourth. Negative 4, right? However, if we do what? Just canceling 6 of them, then how many we have? 1x fourth, right? Then we say you can use either way 1x fourth, okay? But for now, we just use what? Positive exponent, okay? So, then, let's see. We are doing divisions, right? Mono to mono. So first one, we did mono divided by mono. Now, let's see. We are going to do poly divided by mono, right? Many terms divided by one term. Okay, so the idea is this way. If I have 2 apples and 1 pear, give to 2 persons, each person will have how many? 1 apple and what? Half of the pear, right? Same thing we did what? Multiplication. So if I have 1 pear and 1 apple, if I have 3 bags of them, I should have what? 3 apples and 3 pears, right? That means we have to distribute, okay? Because this factor has to apply to everything in the bag. Same thing here. My bag is this way, then my 2 has to apply to everybody inside, right? So we need to do what? Distribute, right? So Same thing, if I have a 2x plus y divided by 2, what should I have? So 2x divided by 2 is x, y divided by 2 is what? Y over half, right? It's the same thing. So we use letters, means some kind of numbers, right? But similar ideas for the physical things, and same idea for the multiplications, okay? So in general, we are going to use what? Distributive property to do all this. If it's many things divided by one thing, this one thing has to apply to everything on the numerators, right? So if we have this one, how many terms we have? A trinomial, 3 terms, divided by 4x. That means what? 3 divided by 1, you still get 3, right? That means you need to distribute this thing, mono, to everybody. So you will have 6x squared divided by 4x minus 12x and 4x and 8 divided by 4x, right? Then you simplify, that's number, then 2 of them get rid of 1, so you have 4x. Those cancel out, 4 and 12, that would be minus 3. That's all fine. Until last one, you have some kind of problems, okay? This one is not polynomial, right? Because x is in the denominator position. We say if x is a base, not in the denominator positions, then it's a poly, okay? This one is a fraction. We call rational numbers, rational expressions, okay? Later on, you will learn this in your 152B class. So you can cancel out this, you are fine. Then you get confused what you would do with the x in the denominator. Divided by x, that means it is divided by x, it should just stay there, okay? Don't move it around to a wrong place, because this x belongs to what? The denominator. Or you can say, oh, I write 2x minus 1, that's fine, right? Because negative exponents is the same thing as a reciprocal, okay? Right? Have we talked about that? Okay, but for now, we don't worry about reciprocal negative exponents. We just do what? Write the x's at the right place where it belongs, okay? If it's in the denominators, that means what? It belongs there, and it should stay there. All right, so let's look at the next one. You have 8x squared y squared minus 12xy plus 2x. How many terms do we have? 3 terms. A trinomial, right? Then it's divided by 4xy. Okay? Then divided by a mono. So it should distribute your mono, right? To everything for the numerator. So you have to write it separately, because we can only divide what? Mono to mono. You only can do one thing at a time, right? So you have to separate them to be able to manage what's going on and to simplify them, right? Now it's a mono to mono, and you should be able to simplify them, right? So this 1, 2, then x2 and 1, get 1 left and 1 left. So you have 2xy for the first term, right? Then second one, 3x, x, y cancel, minus 3. That's fine. Then you will have a problem on the last one. This one you cancel out, that's fine. X cancel out, right? So what happened to y? Y is in the denominator. It doesn't go anywhere. It should stay there. Okay? So divided by 2y. That's what it means. Okay? Don't just move things around randomly. Okay? If it's there, it should stay there. Then you only write it as the simplest form. Right? Next one, we say divide this thing, 40m squared n minus 20mn plus 30m n squared by what? Negative 20mn. All right? Divide this by this. So it's hard to see. You need to write it vertically, like this. Okay? It means what? You need to divide this whole thing by 20 mn, right? That means what? You have 3 terms divided by 1 term. You should write it what? Separately. You should distribute your new denominator to everyone in the numerator, right? So, because we can only handle what? Mono to mono at a time, right? That's your negative 20 mn plus 30 mn squared, negative 20 mn. Is that right? Okay, then you cleaned up, simplify, then 2 of them cancel out, just 1, this go away. So what do we have? Positive, negative, negative, right? Negative 2m left. Then those cancel out, then negative becomes what? Positive. This is all fine until something different. That's cancel out 3.5. That's a negative, right? So you have negative 3/2. Okay, and what happened here? M cancel out, and 2 of them you have 1 left. So you can write a 3n over 2. Or you can write what? Minus 3/2 for the n. It's the same thing because you multiply by n means multiplied by n over 1. That you multiply the top and multiply the bottom, you still end up the same thing. So you can write the n on the side or on the top. Right? So what do we do so far? We did what? Mono divided by mono, right? Then we did what? Poly divided by mono, right? Simple one, because we can, for the variables, we can only handle what? Mono to mono, dividing one at a time. That's for division, right? So what do you think we are going to do now? More complicated situation, right? We did a mono divided by mono, poly divided by mono. Now we are going to do the poly divided by poly. More complicated situation. Okay? But we know for variables we can only handle one term at a time, mono to mono, right? So when we do the poly to poly, divide poly to poly, let's see how we can handle it. All right. So we say letters, okay, X, Y, Z mean numbers, okay? Then we will check how numbers behave. Then we will do the same thing for the letters because they mean the same thing, right? So we know how to do the division, then divide by more than 2 terms, right? 2 numbers, long divisions. Okay, so how should we start? So you have 2 numbers, so at least you need to have 2 numbers to go into. So you can just check the first one, kind of guess how many times it can go into. 2 can go into 4, what? Twice, right? You only can compare 1 at a time. So you say, okay, twice. So first step, what will we do? So we will do the division, right? Then what's your second step? Then you will do what? You multiply back, right? You multiply back, you have to multiply the whole thing. So this is your second step. So 2 times 23 is what? 46, right? Then what's your next step? You will subtract the whole thing, right? So next step, you will do the minus. So remainder is what? 3. Right? Then what's your next step? You will do what? You drop down 1. Right? So next step, you drop down. Then what do? You will do the same thing until you finish up, right? So you will repeat step 1 through step 4, right? So that's your first step. So you do first step again to get another quotient, right? How many times? So you, 1 more time, then you multiply back, right? That will be 23. Then what do? You subtract. So you got remainder, which is 8, right? Then you drop another 1. So do we have another one? No, because until you hit the end, then you are done, right? So your remainder is what? 8, right? So if we write it in fraction form, that would be what? 491 over 23. That would be what? 21 remainder 8. Then we write a what? Remainder over 23rds. Is that right? That's how we change what? A fraction to a mixed number. Is that right? Then how do you know it's right? So you check by the opposite, right? So division opposite is multiplication. So we check. So we check what? 21, okay, times 23, which is 483, okay? So then you add 8, that will be what? 491 you get back, right? So 28, so if we change this one, will be 28 times 23 plus 8 over 23rds, right? That would be 491. That's how you check if you do it right. Right? That's for checking. So we have this situation is what? Inside. Then we call it what? Dividend. Right? Divided by the denominator, we'll call it what? Divisor. Right? Then the result of the division, we call it what? A quotient. Right? That's your quotient. And your remainder is here over what? The divisor. Okay, so that's how we do for the numbers. Then we will do the same thing for the, polys. And to divide a poly by a poly, it's a long division, right? It's just the same thing as what? Your long division. Okay, and let's see some examples for the polys, right? So, since all the letters same thing as the numbers, so we will actually do the same thing. Okay, and let's take a look. First one, if we do 2x squared minus x minus 15 divided by x minus 3, just like this, right? But we have to write it like those to be able to divide. So we write it in vertical form. So you will do it like this. 2x squared minus x minus 15, x minus 3, right? You are divided by two numbers, two terms. So you need what? At least the two terms to go into, just like here. Okay? Then how do you find your first quotient, right? So once you find the first quotient, 2, you just put on top of it. So once you find the first quotient, you have to put on top of the things, all the things you used. Okay? So we say first step, you do the divide. Right? So first step, you have to do divide. But how many times you can go into? We cannot compare two terms to two terms, we say, for the variables. We can only compare to do the divisions and only handle one term divided by one term at one time, right? So, see, you are guessing 2 to 4 twice. So, you can only compare the first term, one term to one term, to decide your quotient. Okay, so what do? You do the 2x squared divided by x to decide first term to first term. So, which is what? 2x. Okay, so you will write it here. All right, so your first step would be what? You have to choose how many terms to go into, right? Depending on your divisors. If you have 3 terms here, you need 3 of them to go into, right? So divide how many terms, right? And your first quotient. First quotient would be what? Dividing the first terms. Both first terms. Right? That's how you do. That's your first quotient. Then what's your second step? You will multiply back, right? You will multiply back. So you will do that. That's your second step. So you will do what? 2x times x minus 3, right? Which will be 2x squared minus 6x, right? So 2x squared minus 6x. Right? Then that will be the second step. Second step will multiply back. Right? Then what's the third step? Usually you make a mistake on the third step. Then we say we minus the whole thing. Then what's the result? -1 minus -6. Okay, so first term will be canceled. Okay, next step, you will always, quite often, you make a mistake. Some people say, oh, this is a -5. No. -7. No. Okay, let's see what will happen. This one is what? -x minus -6. Right? Remember, you have a minus. That means you have to change the sign on the things, right? Get subtract. So you will have what? -x plus 6x, which is what? 5x. 5x. Okay? So for the long division, you will usually get stuck on the first step. You just blank out. Okay? Forgot what to do. Remember your steps. Okay? The next one, you are fine, multiply back. Next one, you what? You subtract. Right? Then you make a mistake here often. Alright. Then what's the next step? We will do like here. Then we will do what? You will bring down next one. Right? -15. Right? Then what do you do next step? We say you will, so next step you bring down, right? Then next one you will just repeat, right? So you will repeat step 1, 2, step 4, right? Just like your numbers, okay? Same thinking. So what's your next step? Then you get stuck, right? Forget what you're supposed to do. Then you go back, find the first, another quotient, right? Then two terms. Then you have to find the quotient. So what do? You do compare, because we can only compare mono to mono at a time. So that's 5, right? So you add the 5, positive, you add a 5, right? Then what's your next step? Multiply back. So it will be 5x minus 15, right? And next step, so you will subtract them. 5x is gone. How about -15 minus -15? So you have what? -15 minus -15, which will be what? 0. Right? So if you have 0, you don't have a remainder. Right? Okay. So your quotient would be this guy. Then how do you know you are doing right? You have to check, right? How do you check? You do what? When you check, you will multiply, right? You will multiply your quotient times what? Your quotient times your divisor, right? Plus, if you have a remainder, then you should go back where you started, which is your dividend. Okay? So we need to check and see. So we check. So we have 2x plus 5. It's our what? Quotient times the divisor, right? Then see what we can get back. So 2x times x, 2x squared, 2x times -3 minus 6x, right? Then lower rainbow, then plus 5x, then last one would be minus 15. So we combine like terms. So we have 2x squared minus x minus 15. Did we get back? Yes, we do. Right? So we are doing what? Poly divided by poly, right? It's a long division. But you will do the same thing as the numbers. Then you will follow those steps. Okay? So if we have this one, 5x squared minus 6 minus 6q minus 7x divided by 2x plus 1. So when we do it, how many terms we have? 4, then 2. Long divisions, right? However, we have to compare gradually, so we have to write the inside as a standard form. Okay? So how should we write it? The highest order to the lower one, right? So 6, you need to write a 6x cubed plus 5x squared, then minus 7x and minus 6. Is that right? Okay. Then, so remember you have to write it in standard form first, so we can follow through, right? Because when you multiply, you gradually become lower and lower and lower, right? Like squares. Then here is just 1 power, right? So you gradually reduce them to the lower terms, then you finish up that way. So how should we start? How many terms we need to start? Choose how many terms, like 2, right? Then first quotient will be what? So your first quotient, you have to compare one term to one term. So you have what? 6 cubed divided by 2x, which will be 3x squared, right? So we have put it on top, lined up by the right order, x squared lined up with x squared, right? Then what's your next step? You multiply them back, right? So you do 3x squared times 2x plus 1. That would be what? 6x cubed plus what? 3x squared, right? So that would be 6x cubed plus 3x squared, right? Then what's your next step? Subtract. So you subtract the whole thing, right? First term, both first terms will be canceled. This one you just compare, that's x squared, but you need to compare 5 minus 3. That would be what? 2. Both positives, then you'll be okay. Okay. Usually if you have more negatives, then you will mess up. Then what's the next step? You drop. So you drop one term, minus 7x. Right? Okay? Then you will repeat. Okay? Find the next quotient. So when you find the quotient, you can only compare what? Using first term and first term to do the divisions to find the find the term, right? So that would be what? Your x. Positive or negative? Positive. Remember to put your sign there. Every term has its own sign, except the first one, positive, you don't have to write it. Okay? So that's your first step again. Then next step, you multiply back. So you multiply back. X times 2x is what? 2x squared. X times 1 is positive x. Then, next one, you will make a mistake. So just be careful. So what do you think? First terms will be cancelled. The next one will be what? Negative 7 minus what? 1x. Right? So it's not negative 6. Okay, be careful. Negative 7 minus one of them, you have what? Negative 8x. Right? Then what's the next step? Then you drop down negative 6. Right? Then find the first term again. Use first. Those first terms. So negative 8x divided by 2x. So negative 8x divided by 2x, that would be what? Negative 4. Right? So negative 4. That's your another first step. Okay, right? Then you can see when you finish up, it's the last column you will have. Then next step, you multiply back. Negative 4 times 2x, negative 8x. Negative 4 times 1 minus 4, right? And you will subtract them. First term always goes away, right? Then what is negative 6 minus negative 4? Negative 6 minus negative 4, right? So sometimes you don't see it clearly, you know, in a vertical style, then you might have to change it to horizontal style to see it. So you can see it here, negative, negative, negative become what? Positive 4. Negative 4, negative 6 plus 4 is what? Negative 2. Remainder is negative 2. Okay, then how would you write your answer? So you write your answer this way. You write the quotient, right? So you write the answer this way. Dividend divided by divisor equals what? Your quotient plus what? Your remainder over your divisor. Okay, so you will write your answer this way. Equals, so quotient is this one. 3x squared plus x minus 4 plus what? Your remainder is negative 2 over your divisor is what? 2x plus 1. Okay, so your answer is this way. Right? Then how do you know you are doing right? You have to check. All right, then how do you check? Right? So you have to use what? Your quotient, 3x squared plus x minus 4 times what? Your divisor, 2x minus 1. Then you have to add your remainder. Okay? So to multiply back to check. So this times this is what? 6x cubed. This times this is what? You have to distribute, right? 3x squared. Then do the second one, second term, multiply everything on the back. X times 2x is what? Plus 2x squared, right? Then this one times this one, x is minus x, right? Then for last item, so you times this is minus 8x, right? Then last one, -4, -1 is plus 4. So you add it together is what? 6x cubed minus x squared minus 9x plus 4. Did we get back? Oh, 5. Did I do it right? 3. Oh, this is a plus 1. No wonder I say it's not right. So this is a plus 1. So this times this is this. This times this is what? Plus this, right? Then x times 2x is this one. X times 1 is this one, right? Then -4 times this is negative. This one is negative now, right? Now we are okay. So this added together is plus 5x squared. This one is what? Minus 7x and minus 4. Do we get it back? 6x cubed plus 5x squared minus 7. Oops, minus 4 is now minus 6. Why? Because we have another one, we have to minus 2, right? So you have to add the remainder. So that would be 5x squared minus 7x minus 6, right? So the check is okay. So you do need to check accordingly, then you know if you make mistakes or not. Okay, let's see the next one. We have this 4x cubed minus 6x squared plus 11 divided by 2x minus 1, right? So we put the denominator, numerator inside, denominator outside, right? 4x cubed minus 6x squared, that's all fine. However, if we write it in standard form, from higher orders to the lower one, right? Then x cubed, x squared, what happened to the x? You don't have it, then you have to fit in. How many x's we have? Now then, we need to fit in the 0. Okay, plus 11. So remember to do that. So what we are talking about on the top of your page 45, we say we need to put a what? Everything in standard form. That means what? You have to write in descending order, okay? Higher to lower. So when we divide, so you will follow through. Otherwise, you won't, okay? Then, if anything missing, right? You need to put a what? A placeholder. Okay, if anything, any term is missing, you have to put a 0 there. So when you subtract like those, then you have place for it. Okay, right? So let's do it again. What's your first step? We say you have to choose how many terms. So this one is how many terms? 2 terms, right? So we need to choose how many terms we have. So for the first one, we need to choose how many terms. So how many terms we have? 2. Then how do we find the first quotient? Right? You have to compare first to first. So you have to do first q divided by 2x, which is what? 2x squared, right? Then you will line them up here, 2x squared, right? Then what's your second step? It says you need to multiply back. So you need to multiply back. That's your second step, right? Multiply back, which is what? 2x squared times 2x minus 1. That would be 2x, oh, not a 2, 4x cubed minus 2x squared. Is that right? So that would be 4x cubed minus 2x squared, right? And next step, we say we need to what? Subtract, right? So you subtract them. Then first term, always cancel it out. Then next one, when you subtract and you make mistakes, right? So what do you have? Negative 6 minus negative 2, right? Negative 6 minus negative 2. What do you think that would be? Negative 6 plus 2. That would be negative 4x squared, right? Then what's the next step? You drop it down, right? Okay, so that would be 0x, right? Then what do? We repeat, right? You have to find the next quotient. So what's your next quotient? 2 terms and 2 terms. Then first quotient will be what? Compare mono to mono. So it's 4x squared divided by 2x. That would be what? Negative 2 and 1x left, right? Minus negative 2x, right? Then what's your next step? You multiply back. So what do we have? Negative 2x times 2x minus 1. That would be what? Negative 4x squared and negative positive 2x. Is that right? Negative 4x squared plus 2x, right? Then next step will be what? Subtract, right? So next step, subtract. You cancel our first terms. The next one, be careful, you have 0 minus what? 2 here, right? That would be negative 2x, right? Then next step, you drop plus, right? Then next step, do it again. So you compare first term to first terms. Negative 2x divided by 2x is what? Negative 1. Is that right? So it's negative 1, right? Then next step, you multiply back. Negative 1 times 2x minus 2x. Negative 1 times negative 1 plus 1, right? Then next, you subtract them. So this one all positives, so easier. So what do you have? 11 minus 1 should be what? 10. Is that right? So you remember is 10. How do you write your answer? You will write a what? This way. Quotient plus remainder over divisor. So you will write 2x squared minus 2x minus 1. Remainder is 10 over your divisor. Right? Then, how do you know you are doing right? you need to do what? You need to check. Okay? So, to check, we need to do what? Where is the checking here? Quotient times divisor plus remainder. See, you can get back. Okay? So your quotient is this one. Times what? Divisor 2x minus 1 plus 10. Your remainder. See if you do it right. Right? Make sure you check. So check can help you to practice the multiplications as well, right? So 2x squared times 2x, 4x cubed, right? Then 2x times negative 1 would be minus 2x squared, right? Then for the second term, you do that. Negative 2x times 2x minus 4x squared, right? Then negative 2x times negative 1 plus 2x. Is that right? For the third term, negative 2x, right? And the last one, minus 1. So what do we have? Okay, 4x cubed minus 6x squared, cancel out, minus 1. Is that right? Or minus 11. So what have plus 11? So you need to what? Plus, wait, negative, that's positive, right? Then plus 10, that will get your 11. Right? Okay. For the next one, usually we practice in the class so we can check your mistakes and also see where you will get stuck. Okay? But now you just do it yourself. So, to 2x cubed minus 18 divided by x minus 2. So, what do? So first, we need to write what? In standard form. Then put this one inside, denominator inside. So, numerator. So you have 2x cubed. Where's your square? Not there. So you need to put a what? Space holder, right? For the missing term. Then plus x minus 18 divided by x minus 2, right? So let's just do it together. Do it again. Okay. How should we start? First terms. So you need to use first terms, right? How many terms we need? 2. So for the first term will be here, right? Then how do you get there? You can only compare mono to mono. So you do 2x cubed divided by x, which will be what? 2x squared. Is that right? Then multiply back, right? 2x squared times x, 2x cubed, 2x squared times negative 2 will be negative 2x squared, right? Then third step, subtract them, right? Those cancel out. Then what do you have? 0 minus negative 2. 0 minus negative 2, you better write it out. So it has less mistakes. So 0 minus 2 is 2. That's 2. Right? Then next step, drop your x, right? Then don't get stuck. You have to do it all over again. Two terms to two terms, compare the mono parts of it, right? For the first one, 2x squared over x, which will be what? 2x. Don't just write the 2x here because each term has what? Let's see. 2x squared. Oops. I was checking my typos. That's why. It's so easy to make typos because once you make a typo, then everything follows will be wrong. What happened? Because I didn't write it down. See, 2x squared times, so I missed a step. Usually it will happen to you. Times x minus squared. You better write it down so less mistakes. So 2x cubed minus what? 4x squared. That's why I have 4 here. Okay? If I have 4 there, 0 minus not 2, negative 2 is a negative 4. So that will be 4. That should be 4 here. Okay? So if you have a mistake, everything follows will be wrong. So if 4x squared here, that's not a 2x squared anymore. That's a 4x squared divided by x. That would be what? 4x. So we should have 4 here. Okay? Then you cannot just write it that way because it looks like multiplications. But actually, they are two terms. So separated by plus and minus sign. Okay? Right? Are we good? So what do? Multiply back. Oh, we better write it down like here. We didn't write it down. Then we had typos. Right? So you have 4x times x minus 2. So you just do it one step at a time. Okay, that would be 4x squared minus 8x. Is that right? Do we have typos? Okay, then we subtract. Those canceled out. Then we better write it down, right? So we have 1 of the x, that's invisible 1, minus negative 8, which will be what? 1 minus negative 8, 1 plus 8, it's 9x, right? So we need to be careful with all the signs, okay? Just have to be patient with yourself, right? And we carry down. Then what do we do now again? For another quotient. Once you finish steps 1 through 4, then you repeat. You need to find more quotients, right? We can only do one term at a time. And we'll compare one term at a time as well, right? 9x divided by x, positive 9. Right? Then multiply back, that would be 9x minus 18, right? Then we subtract them, they are the same. Right? Are you following? Then we check. We do no remainders, so we don't have to worry about it. So we just do what? Quotient times your divisor. See, you can get back to your numerator, which is dividend, right? So you times this, that would be 2x cubed times this would be minus 2 is 4x squared, right? Then we do this, 4x times x would be plus 4x squared, right? Then we'll do this, 4x times negative 2 minus 8x, right? Then we'll do this, plus 9x, then we'll do this, minus 18. Do we get back? Let's see. That's 2x cubed, this cancel out. Then this one will be plus x minus 18, right? Let's check. 2x cubed plus x minus 18. If you can multiply back, you can see all your work should be okay. Otherwise, it's something not right. Either you didn't multiply back correctly or some mistakes like those when you multiply and when you subtract or when you divide for the quotients, right? You need to practice. Not a whole lot of homework for this section, but each one will take you a while. Then you better check to make sure your thinking is on the right track, right? So this would be your section 6.6, dividing polynomials. So far we did what? Add, subtract, multiply, and divide for all the polynomials we were talking about.